Said the boss to his senior VP,
I want you to listen to me. I mean it, no joke. This Newport's a smoke with a smooth taste. I know you'll agree.
It wasn't very long ago that cigarette use was a normal part of everyday life in America. Today, anti-smoking laws have done a lot to curb cigarette use, but sales of electronic cigarettes, an alternative way of getting that nicotine fix, have risen sharply in recent years. Much remains unknown about these cigarette surrogates, and not just their effects on health.
Some people have posited that the electronic cigarette smoking, being in areas where regular cigarette smoking is prohibited, may actually renormalize smoking and really take back some of the tobacco control policies that have helped to make smoking less visible to the public. So the concern is that would smoking an e-cigarette around somebody who's in that presence of somebody trigger them to want to smoke? And so there could be harm to the observer of this behavior. So we conducted a study to examine how young adult smokers may respond to being around a person smoking an electronic cigarette as compared with a traditional combustible cigarette. So they did not know that the purpose of the study was to measure how this e-cigarette or the cigarette affected those urges. They engaged in conversation with another person, and that other person in the conversation was either smoking a regular cigarette, or they were smoking an electronic cigarette, or they were drinking a bottle of water. We measured in the participants of the study their urge to smoke before that interaction and then several times after that interaction. As we predict, when somebody is around a person smoking a combustible cigarette, that increase the urge to smoke in our participants because they are smokers. So it's a very potent cue or trigger for them to want to smoke. When we compared this to being around another person smoking an e-cigarette, we found that those increases in wanting to smoke a regular cigarette were just as high. What we didn't know until this study was what would happen if you're exposed to e-cigarette use. And so what was surprising to many of us was that the extent of this increase in urge to smoke was to the same level as the people who are exposed to the combustible cigarette. So it may be a very potent trigger for wanting to smoke. What we really need to know now is, do these results also apply to a wider range of observers of e-cigarette use? If the results do generalize, and we do show that in other groups, it's really important to really consider policy and going forward in terms of reducing any harm for both the user but also observers of the behavior.